This article is part of the Opinion Today newsletter. You can sign up here to receive more briefings and a guide to the section daily in your inbox. One of the worst pieces of advice that Democrats are getting is to move right on economic policy in order to win back swing voters. It tends to come from centrists who are confusing their own policy wishes with smart political advice. Some new survey data which Lee Drutman highlights in an op-ed help show how misplaced this advice is. Most swing voters lean notably left on economic policy, the data show. It's true of people who voted for Barack Obama in 2012 but not Hillary Clinton in 2016, and even of those who switched from Mitt Romney in 2012 to Clinton in 2016. Moving right on economics, Drutman writes, will not help Democrats with any of these voters and could even risk losing some, demoralizing an energized base, especially younger voters. The situation on cultural issues is different, however. On those issues, the surveyed data show, many more swing voters lean right, especially those who switched from Obama in 2012 to Donald Trump in 2016. The second chart in Drutman's piece is particularly striking. I'd argue that progressives who ignore the second half of this message are making the same mistake as centrists who ignore the first. We all have our own policy preferences. But encouraging politicians to support our own preferences isn't the same as giving good political advice. On this same topic, I'm reminded of my colleague Ross Douthat's recent argument that the Democrats erred by nominating a proud supporter of abortion rights for the Senate seat in Alabama, a decidedly anti-abortion state. Speaking of that Alabama campaign, I believe the women who say that Roy Moore molested them when they were teenagers. Their statements have been detailed and are consistent with one another's. They also have bits of corroborating evidence, no easy thing decades later, and the women have no apparent motivation other than telling the truth. But let's say you're more skeptical than I am and have been trying to figure out whom to believe. Yesterday was clarifying. Anna Claire Vollers of the Huntsville Times reported that residents of Gadsden, Alabama, where Moore was born, have long been aware of Moore's interest in teenage girls. Moore and other Republican leaders have questioned why it took so long for his accusers, now in their 50s, to come forward publicly, Vollers reports, on AL.com. And yet people who lived in Etowah County during that time have said Moore's flirting with and dating much younger women and girls was no secret. Charles Bethia of The New Yorker also has a report from Gadsden, about Moore's behavior at the local mall. This past weekend, I spoke or messaged with more than a dozen people, including a major political figure in the state, who told me that they had heard, over the years, that Moore had been banned from the mall because he repeatedly badgered teenage girls. And another woman came forward to accuse Moore of sexual abuse yesterday. Caroline Orr, a behavioral scientist with a big Twitter following, had a smart summary of the incentives facing the woman, Beverly Young Nelson. She came forward after she watched his other accusers get doxxed, harassed, and re-traumatized.